If you'll excuse me, everyone, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Hello and welcome to the June 10th, 2025 meeting of the Air Planning Board. This hearing of the Air Planning Board will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with a particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom meeting ID 978-772-8220 or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Danny Ruiz, Town Planner at druiz@air.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 144 prior to the meeting. I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda, and that is simply under administrative matters, adding the signing by the board of the zoning map that was approved at town meeting. So moved. Do I get a second?
Seconded.
Any discussion? Does Kathleen vote on this? Okay, good. Ken?
That was the only amendment?
Yeah.
Aye.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Nathan?
Aye.
Julie?
Yes.
And the chair votes aye. One other piece of business before we enter the formal meeting. We have a letter from Jeff Tillotson, dated June 6, 2025, to the Air Planning Board. To the members of the Air Planning Board, please accept my resignation from the Air Planning Board effective Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. Please know that it has been one of the most rewarding opportunities of my life to serve the town of Ayer on the Planning Board, working alongside the dedicated members of the Planning Board and Ayer town professionals. Thanks to all of you for making my time on the Planning Board so enjoyable and productive. Regards, Jeffrey L. Tillotson. And I will just add that we certainly appreciate Jeff's contribution, both as a chair and as a member, and that he made remarkable progress in helping and strengthening our board for the betterment of the town. So, thank you, Jeffrey. That said, our first, we have a public hearing. We have to open it for, no, we have to open it for 0 Bly Street, right? Would someone like to take a crack at it?
I will.
Nathan?
Move that we open the public hearing for 0 Bly Street. Do you need more?
Application.
The application is for a site plan review, section 9.6, and a stormwater management permit.
Excellent. Do I have a second? Any discussion? Hearing none. Ken?
Aye.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Nathan?
Aye.
Julie?
Yes.
Chair votes aye. It is open. We have a representative from 0 Bly Street here?
Yes, I believe Elizabeth is online. Let's see. She is not online.
Move to continue.
No, we wouldn't continue it. We would just table it for now.
Can we do that?
Yep, let's table it for now,
Table it,
and let's
continue.
go to 15 3rd Street.
Okay, and that one's already open.
Yes.
So we can just begin with that. And,
Yes.
okay, and,
Motion to table.
oh, we need a motion to table. So yes, I'd like to make a motion to table 0 Bly Street, application site plan review and stormwater management permit.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Ken?
Aye.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Nathan?
Aye.
Julie?
Yes.
Chair votes aye. Okay, so that puts us with the 15 3rd Street, Pine Street.
Yes.
And what's this, and will you bring us up to date what we need to do here?
So this morning, the board and I went out to 15 3rd Street, or Pine Street, as it's proposed to be called, for a site walk. After the board was out there, we had a discussion. We talked about the site. The board had some questions for the applicant. And I feel like it was a very good use for the board to go out there and actually see the site, see where everything was going to be located. The applicant did not have a chance to submit revised plans and comments to the department heads. So the applicant did request a continuance from today to the June 24th meeting.
June 24th, okay. And everything's in line in terms of timing, to prevent
Yes.
constructive approval? Okay.
Yes.
All right, great. So we just need a motion for continuance?
So moved.
So if you want to just say,
I don't want to say.
I'll say it then. I'll make the motion. I move to continue the public hearing for 15 Third Street, Pine Street, the site plan review and stormwater management permit to our next meeting on June 24th.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Ken?
Aye.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Nathan?
Aye.
Julie?
Yes.
Chair votes aye. So that will be continued. Should we move on to Zero High Street? Let's see, the Bly is not here.
Let me just see if I shoot them an email.
So this is the engineer representing them, or a lawyer?
Yeah, it's Elizabeth Clark from GPR. I mean, she said she was going to be joining.
And you don't see her on Zoom. There's no panic messages to your other phone or anything like that?
That's what I'm.
Oh, okay.
I haven't received any email, so I'm gonna actually send her an email.
Approve the minutes. Oh.
Yeah. We can take out of order, and if we want to do
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah. Oh, you mean, you want to say skip ahead to the administrative?
Yeah,
or-
let's just do the minutes.
Okay.
That way, let's see it. It'll give them some time if she responds or jumps on. And then,
Okay.
if not, then we can move on to the
Yeah, then we will. All right, that's fair to everybody. Make a motion to approve the April 8th, 2025 Air Planning Board minutes as amended and submitted to the board this morning.
Seconded.
Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. Ken?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Nathan?
Aye.
Julie?
Yes.
Chair votes aye. I move that we approve the meeting minutes for May 27th, 2025 for the Air Planning Board as amended and submitted to the board members this morning.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Ken?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Nathan?
Aye.
Julie?
Yes.
Chair votes aye. That's approved.
Nice work on those, incidentally.
Thank you, and thank Heather. And yes,
A lot of text there.
she put in a lot of work on those, so. We're gonna go to Zero High Street, or do you hear
I
from?
did get an email from Elizabeth. She said that yes.
So it's what?
She said yes, that she will be joining.
When?
That's exactly what I got. Yes.
Okay.
She knew that.
Does you appreciate there's some urgency?
She knew the agenda was first. I don't know what's going on. I know she was.
Give her a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm one voice, but I would give her.
Okay, there we go. There we go.
Now, do I need to make another motion because we tabled it to untable it, or, so how does one phrase an untabling? Do I actually say it that way?
Motion to take the to start the Zero Bly Street.
Yeah, I make a motion that we initiate our discussions for Zero Bly Street, a site plan review and stormwater management permit.
Second.
Any discussion? Ken?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Nathan?
Aye.
Julie?
Yes.
Chair votes aye. Yes, hello. We have someone here? Yes. Thank you. Good.
Hello?
Hello?
Jeez.
Hello, Ms. Clark.
You hear us?
Liz, can you hear us?
Guess not.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay. Good.
All right. Apologies. I thought that this started at 6:30. So I'm Liz Clark. I'm an engineer with GPR. And are we on the Blythe Street hearing?
Yes,
Yes, we are.
All right. Just making sure I wasn't interrupting as well. And thank you for accommodating the virtual option here. So I am going to share my screen. Okay, can you see the plan?
Hold on
1
second.
Okay,
There we go.
all right. So up on the screen, I have the site shown here. It's a 7.5 acre existing industrial site off of Bly Street. The address is 0 Bly Street. The access is off of Bly Street on the north of the site here. And then over on the south, we have Grove Pond. Oops, that went a little crazy. And with that, we have the 50-foot no-touch buffer zone associated with that. We have a line of bank here and the 100-foot. Out in Grove Pond, non-caustic brook is also part of the waterway. And because of that, we do have a regulatory floodway on the site that's at elevation 226.9. We also have a 100-year floodplain. So under the Wetlands Protection Act, that'd be bordering land subject to flooding, which is at elevation 227. Site currently has an existing warehouse on it. And then it has an outbuilding over here and parking areas for loading for the trucks that come in. There is some existing debris piles on site in various locations. Part of this project will be to clean that up as well. So we are here tonight for a special permit related to an expansion of an industrial use, as well as for a project that is disturbing more than 40,000 square feet of area. The site is, yeah?
The application was not for a special permit.
Oh, sorry.
It's for, site plan review.
Site plan review. Thank you. My apologies for that. Site plan review for clearing or grading more than 10,000 square feet of land, as well as all new commercial or industrial construction for industrial or commercial construction. And also for a major stormwater management permit. We're going to be disturbing more than 40,000 square feet of land, so we'll be filing that as well. Do you want me to go through the list of waivers that we're requesting?
You know, Ms. Clark, I think the
Yeah.
first thing would be appropriate is simply to state the intention of the applicant. What do they want to do here? And
Okay.
start from there. Thank you.
All right. So the proposed project is to construct a gravel pad for construction vehicle storage. That's about 26,000 square feet of area. Also going to be to clean up some of those debris piles that I had highlighted on the previous plan as well. We're going to be incorporating stormwater management. There's a proposed infiltration basin back here. And with that basin, we'll be providing peak runoff rate mitigation as well as enhancing, providing for water quality. And then because we are in a floodplain area, we do have grading that will raise up the gravel pad, filling in a portion of the floodplain. So we are proposing compensatory storage as well. We have grading out here to make sure that there is no loss of floodplain as part of this project. Included in the application, we did show what is going to be happening for phase 2. This was for informational purposes only. This isn't part of the formal filing or what we're requesting approval for tonight. But we are demonstrating that our stormwater control measures are sized adequately to handle this expansion in the future. So in the future, the applicant does plan to add on construction storage garage area and then pave formally pave the parking lot, that include parking spaces, as well as at that point we'll be adding in piped drainage and water quality treatment at that part. I'm going to flip back to phase one just because that is the subject of tonight's hearing. And we can go through the waivers. So this is the plan showing the grading as well as the comp storage and the
She's gonna go through them.
basin. Included in our application was a request for waivers related to providing interior landscaping. Given that this is a temporary construction pad where storage of materials may happen, we felt that the need for landscaping wasn't applicable in this case, and we're also preserving the majority of the site as open space and cleaning it up. We have adjusted our plans so that this area outside of the stormwater basin will be planted with a meadow mix to help encourage a pollinator habitat. Additionally, we requested a waiver for the requirement to provide bicycle parking. It's just not something that the employees and tenants of the site use. And then there is a requirement under the zoning bylaw, section 9.2.8.2, that requires at least 50% of the open space be provided in the front or side yards of the lot. And the majority of ours is in the rear, and it's just really to the nature of the site, right? With our access up front and the existing building already in the middle. We had requested a waiver for an impact traffic statement. We have gotten comments from the town to provide that, and we are working on getting that information to you guys. And then in the site plan regulations, there is also a requirement for bicycle facilities that we are requesting a waiver to. And as well as lighting. The project doesn't include any new lighting, so we weren't going to provide details on the existing lighting. It's just what's associated with the existing warehouse. And then the stormwater regulations require that easements be provided to the stormwater management facilities on site. Given that what the basin that we have proposed will not be tying into municipal infrastructure, and then the future infrastructure will not be, we requested a waiver for that as well. And I guess we should go through the town responses as well. So it was great. You guys got us a letter from the comments from each town department, which was really helpful to get in advance. And I can say with the majority of the comments, we're either working through them or have addressed them. Pull that up.
Just so the board does know, you did receive in your packets today a draft version of the applicant's responses. They're not the formal version yet. Those, and I have not had a chance to review them, so I don't know how far we want to get into the comments.
Okay.
I think
I can open it up for discussion if you'd rather.
Yeah, I think at this point we should possibly, I think maybe open it up to the board for discussion, for questions. The only thing I would say to preface this, so a couple of things that have come up since the application was submitted. The first thing is there is a notice of activity and use limitations on this site. The entire site is encompassed within that, and what that is a it designates this site to be limited in what can be done on the site. due to the fact that there was an oil slash hazardous material spill um, way back in the day. There was a 21E done on the site. There was a phase 1 and a phase 2 done. Phase 2 was completed in May of 2007. And since that, there is that notice of activity and use limitations was put on the site, recorded with on the deed and the mortgage, everything. So it runs with the site basically forever until there's some certain trigger points, which are when the applicant comes in for a change of use. And so as of right now, the applicant did submit a soil management plan, which is one of the requirements for a change of use to prove that any work that they do on site would not cause a significant health risk. So that was submitted to me today. This did also go out to town council for review, not the soil management plan, but the notice, so that it can be determined what the applicant, whether or not this was allowed. Town council felt that based on them submitting the soil management plan, they can move forward, except this does need to, in town council's opinion, this does need to go to DEP for review because of the steps that are set in the notice of activity and use limitations. There's kind of a step-by-step form in there that basically says when you're going for a change of use, you have to submit this. It gets reviewed, and then the applicant will receive an updated letter, opinion letter, and that will be the new thing that gets recorded with the deed. So right now, we're still waiting to hear whether or not this has been submitted to DEP for review. That's going to be a big topic. So I don't know what the time frame on that would take. Obviously, with the document being 36 pages, with I don't know exactly what the time frame is on that. So as we progress through this application, it may come down to some conditions on that, depending on where this goes. But for right now, that's one of the bigger open items that needs to be addressed.
Sorry to interrupt. I think it's completely reasonable to have a condition to require us to submit either sign off from DEP or,
Okay.
as part of on that soil management plan. So that has been prepared by a licensed site professional, and we're working to figure out, the next steps on that and if it has or needs to go to DEP.
And then the other thing is, discussion of the waivers. In my comment letter, I did discuss about the waivers. I think that's kind of the bigger topic I think we should discuss is if the board were inclined to give any of these waivers, they would only be specific to phase 1.
Not phase 2.
No,
Okay.
because I believe phase 2, since we're not able to consider it,
Exactly.
I can't advise the board to give a waiver
Can't.
for phase 1 and phase 2 without knowing exactly what the impacts of those
Exactly.
waivers would be.
Correct.
So if the board, if we get to that point where the board feels they want to vote on those waivers, it would be only specifically for phase 1.
Right.
We're not gonna do that tonight, or?
No. I'm just saying when we get to that point. Yep. And then the other thing is, because this site is within completely the flood zone, so it's within the 100-year and the 500-year flood zone. 500 years not as big because we don't actually have any bylaws on that. It's only within the 100-year. So this whole site is within it, which is why they are building that stormwater management basin. That does provide compensatory flood storage for the site.
Not the stormwater basin, this berm she's talking about.
I mean, yes, that's the berm up there. But based on based on the numbers that the applicant has provided to the town engineer Matt, he reviewed it and determined that the work that they would be doing, the compensatory flood storage, would not does meet the intent of the bylaw, and that it would not cause additional flooding. That so within the bylaw, that is like a requirement that no new construction or anything can occur until that is proven. That has been submitted to the town engineer. The town engineer gave that his opinion to Mike Wallace, the building inspector, and he also determined that this can move forward. So those are the kind of the bigger topics that we had since the submission. I think at this point we can turn it over to the board.
So, yeah, I have a question, and perhaps it's my confusion and everyone else is clear on this, but I'm confused about the way we integrate the stormwater management into this project, because one thing that occurs to me is does there need to be stormwater work for phase one? And it looks like there does need to be. So that as far as that goes, it looks like in phase one, we can only approve stormwater up to what's appropriate for one, but then we have to revisit for two, because we don't know what the buildings, the real drawings of the buildings, what the relationship to impermeable to permeable is until phase two drawings come before us.
Yeah. So the way
Yeah.
it,
Is it in the narrative they provided?
yeah. So
But-
the flood. So the stormwater that they have designed here
Yep.
fits can manage the site improvement for the conceptual portion of phase two.
But then we would be required to make sure that whatever they submit is similar to the conceptual, to the
Yes,
numbers.
correct. So what would happen is when the applicant comes before us for phase two,
Right.
they're basically have to start from, they're going to submit everything again, and to show that the numbers that they have still can manage whatever it is that they propose for phase two. And if there are improvements that need to be done, they can be done at that point as part of that application.
All right, so the
Yeah.
applicant,
And if anything, it's, we're just showing you the thought process on why we have over mitigation for phase one. We do expand our impervious area under phase two a bit and have a little bit more fill and more need for treatment. So at this point, we're just, we want to put the full stormwater management system in, at least the basin portion, just for construction logistics on phase one.
So
and phase two.
it's kind of like what we did over with Nasoya. So
Yeah, but we understand completely that we're coming back for phase two, and that, any approvals, waivers would be applicable only to phase one.
So remember when we did with Nasoya, the applicant, they came before us with a full design. Then they came back with a modification to reduce the size of the building, but kept the same size stormwater because in the future they would eventually build out. And if they were to build out anything bigger than what they had originally proposed, then they would have to address that as part of that review. So
okay, as long as the applicant's aware of that level of risk, of it, that there's that second review of the stormwater to make sure it's actually consistent with the real thing. Okay. All right. That makes sense. That was my big question.
I've got a couple of questions.
Yes.
So Liz, the existing conditions plan, you mentioned the stockpile of debris that's on the site. But
Mhm.
your plan doesn't seem to match up with what I saw out there today. There seem to be a lot more piles than those piles you showed on the plan there.
I will admit that our survey might not have picked up every single little pile. We
No,
did
these aren't
get,
little, these are big. They're not little. Anyway,
and
can you verify and update that existing condition plan for the next meeting and make sure that you double check the existing stockpiles that are on the site? Some of them are 10 or 12 feet high. I don't know if that matches up with what you're showing there, so that's the concern I have. The most important thing to me is the lack of, I don't seem to find it, but the lack of a cross-section on the gravel pad. I don't even know how deep you're going, I don't know what the materials are, I don't know what the compaction is. There doesn't seem to be any detail on the pad itself. And it's that's the project.
okay, we'll get that on there.
Yeah.
So, we need to know how deep you're going to get rid of the deleterious material, and what kind of gravel you're using, this type of gravel.
All right. So we do have
Get the
the
drive.
gravel drive. detail here. So it shows a 6-inch gravel layer
That can't-
overlaying
That's not the pad.
compact.
It's not the pad.
Well, that's the only expansion under the existing phase, really. That was what the intent was, so we can relabel that if that would be helpful.
What?
So
I'm
basically,
confused.
it would be similar to the gravel driveway.
Yes,
Is
we're
what she's
intending to
saying.
have uniform construction when we go out there. We're not
Freaking
making the
holes.
driveway or the pad
And with
different.
water under it.
They'd be the same. What was the comment?
My comment is that I need to see the pad and what's going on in that part of the site, not just the driveway.
Yeah.
I don't think the driveway represents the extent of the work in the pad. Where it says undisturbed material 6 inches below, forget about it. It's junk.
I think our intent is that, given that this is a temporary pad, was to assess the conditions as it's out there. And yes, we will be removing unsuitable material. We'll be doing this under the supervision of a licensed site professional to make sure we're adhering to the soil management plan and ensuring that adequate compaction occurs so that we don't have settlement or washout of the pads.
I understand your verbal explanation, but I'd like to see the explanation in detail or a narrative on the plan is what I'm asking for.
Okay.
That's what I had. Mostly the pad is phase 1, right? That's
That's really, yeah, the main
Yeah,
site
that was-
improvement beyond the basin.
That was my thing too, you know?
And
Nathan has I'm sorry, Ken, did you want to continue, or can you
Go
offer
ahead.
the floor to?
Sorry.
Nathan?
I'd like to go back to the 30,000 feet. Yep. What we have here is an application.
On the, for her, she's got the hearing.
We have an application for, basically, for a gravel pad with the understanding that the applicant will come back again. The trigger, what will be the legal trigger? Is that going to be a building?
Yeah. At
Okay.
that point, they'll be trying to propose a construction of a new commercial/industrial building, and that's the trigger for.
you know, the parking, huge parking.
Yeah,
lot.
and the parking.
The
numbers,
impervious
of course.
surface,
Yeah.
okay. So that will happen.
Yep.
It seems that the waivers, particularly, I think we could meet somewhere in the middle on landscaping, because I really have to consider this as a standalone application. Gravel pad, period, done. So I think my opinion is that the waivers should only take into consideration what's before us as phase 1. My suggestion would be, if there's lightweight, even the planted meadow sounds like a landscape plan, that there could be something, it doesn't have to be trees and boulevard, but I do think that some of these, the waivers that are particularly in reference to phase 2, I would have a difficult time because it's not actually part of our application.
Right.
And just so on the plan, they do show plantings along the front, along
Yeah, I saw
Glass
the
Street.
screen, yep.
Yeah, so screening. So that that is, I think that is kind of like their intent, is to do that part of the landscaping, but internal portion
Sure.
of the site, in phase 2, they would have to come back again and either propose a landscape plan or request a waiver.
Certainly would be a landscape plan with a follow-on application.
Yep.
But again, I think the applicant should consider waivers that are only applicable to what is before us.
So I understand why they did request all these waivers, because
Very good information.
Yeah, under our bylaw, you're required to submit all this information even under this type of a submission. So that's why they're requesting these waivers. But like I pointed out, I would only be comfortable granting these to phase one specifically,
Yeah,
not phase two. Just I don't know what the impacts of those waivers would be to a project that I don't know about.
exactly. Right. Exactly.
Thank you for,
Yeah.
you've summarized well what my concern.
Right. How far can we get this evening, Danny? Yeah, I mean,
I think Ken had something else.
No, I'm gonna go with what I got.
Okay.
I didn't, one more then,
Oh, I
what
did
was,
have-
what was
sorry.
the
wait, let Nathan go. He's done.
Conservation Commission's take on regrading the floodplain inside the 100-foot buffer?
We're gonna meet with them Thursday night.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was something we went back and forth on too in-house. You know, under, let me get my pencil back out here. If we could just kind of clip it to follow the buffer and pull it back. But again, this was, sorry, my intent is to keep that out of the buffer when I'm scribbling here. But the discussion was, you know, under phase two, flip to that plan, we actually do need to expand it further. So where we're doing much more comp storage there. So our thought was to phase the excavation here under this application and then come back later and expand it out. So that is something we are going to have to review with the Conservation Commission and get their feedback on as well.
And I believe that would be the first meeting you guys have?
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So can we go back to the retention or detention basin? So
Yeah.
we didn't really go over the testing. So you've got two test holes there, it looks like, that you used as part of the
Yeah.
design. I noticed that riprap spillway, I'm reading it actually, at, what is it, 221 something or whatever it is, 50?
21.5.
Wow,
Mhm.
that's pretty good. I noticed it discharges off your property to that adjoining piece.
Yeah.
Is that a,
It's their property.
well, not the property of this application.
Correct.
So it's off,
It is in common ownership. So
so what I'm questioning is
can you do that?
appropriate to have an emergency overflow that goes like that?
I'm going to have to ask Matt on that question.
You see, it's right on the line.
Yes. Yeah. I honestly don't know because technically the adjoining property is in common ownership with this property. It's not part of this application. So I'll have to check with Matt.
Thank you. I just don't think it's a good idea to have a shot at exposing someone else's property to a potential emergency goes over. And it's very close to the adjoining property beyond
Which is,
that.
yeah, that's the,
Another abutter.
yep.
So anyhow, that was my thought. Thank you.
Good thought. Any other board comments? No. So what's next steps? What do we got here?
So I think continuing to the next meeting would work. It'll give myself and the other department heads time to review the comments and give Liz a chance to formalize their comments and get those over to me, so we can start that review. And then if there's any other open comments, give responses back to those. We can then hopefully by then we'll have some sort of an direction of where this is going with the AUL, the notice of AUL, and maybe we'll have some idea of what's going on with that.
Ready for motion?
Yes, I'd like to, yep, I'm going to open the public comment. Yes, Ms. Nearing, if you'd like to approach.
Oh, good.
So you're aware I'm struggling
Name
with
and
hearing
address.
issues. Can you hear me?
Yes, name and address.
Okay, I can't hear you unless I wear these. So I do have hearing aids as well, so I can switch back and forth. Your voices are very soft, yours in particular, Mr. Diskin. I can hear Liz really well though, so I'm going up and down. You mentioned this is a 21E site, and I'm trying to figure out if this is the site historically where the tannery was.
Yeah, this is the old, where the old tannery was. So
Okay.
it's an AUL. It's not a 21E site. A 21E is basically something that occurs on almost any property. A 21E is just a review of any environmental or hazardous materials that may have been on site. So this is an AUL, which is a site that there was an oil spill slash hazardous material spill
It's
on
okay.
site.
I, with all due respect, I need to elaborate because it was far more than an oil spill. You may have been around, Ken, when the tannery fire happened in 1962. And so, Liz, I don't know if your company has done soil testing already, but I know that DEP has, and the soil was so green from chromium that was legally allowed to be released in this area at the time that they had to be really careful. The soil's very, very contaminated here.
Yeah. So that did occur in 2007. Phase 2 was done on site, which includes borings, subsurface testing. That was done in May of 2007. This, which ran with the site, which is why their DEP has that AUL on the site.
So we want to make sure that whatever changes are being done on this property with the retention ponds, that groundwater's not pulling those contaminants into Grove Pond. So I'm assuming that's what you guys will look at, and DEP and the planning board.
Yeah, that's the big thing is why the soil management plan is required, because under the AUL it specifically excludes any subsurface, any grading or excavation below grade, unless it's for landscaping or for emergency repair of utilities, unless there's a soil management plan that is put in place prior, and that's what we feel needs to be reviewed by DEP based on what the form says.
Well, in an ideal world, maybe this project will help to clean up the problems that are there and remove it and send it properly to a landfill, a line landfill. That's all I have.
There, yeah, I guess just to respond a little bit, given that we do have a soil management plan, there will be protocols required for anything that's excavated and where that can go. Likely it'll have to go to a licensed landfill that can handle it, as well as what can be placed on the site for it. So that's part of, not my scope, it's the licensed site professional, but it will be under their purview to make sure that we adhere with the area use limitation, the AUL.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Could you make a recommendation to her that she go on site and read that soil management, the last thing you posted today?
Oh, Lori, I just wanted to let you know, so the soil management plan that they submitted, it is up on the website, so if you want to review that, you can review it. It's under this application. You'll see it's called soil management plan.
I don't know about the technical skills to grasp it all, but I have the concept. So thank you, Dan.
Do we need a motion for continuance?
Move that we continue the public hearing.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, any hands up?
Anyone else?
Anyone on Zoom wants to speak? I see none.
Move that we continue the public hearing for Zero Bly Street site plan review and stormwater management permit to the next Ayer Planning Board hearing on June 24th.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none. Ken?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Nathan?
Aye.
Julie?
Yes.
Chair votes aye. We'll have it continue. We'll see you next meeting. That brings
All right,
us.
thank you.
That brings us to Zero High Street and Lincoln Hills. Danny, will you set us up and tell us what we can and cannot do today? What do we have the opportunity to discuss? And all right.
Yeah. It's on. Just trying to figure out what happened here.
Getting more.
Not exactly sure what just happened.
Do you want to talk to them and I'll play with that? Or
Yeah. Why don't we pull up? We can do Lincoln Hills now.
Motion.
Okay,
for
great.
20.
That's what I thought.
That's what you just said.
Yeah. Sorry, I was trying to
well,
figure out what's going on here.
What?
Yeah.
poor man is also running the whole Zoom meeting and the screens. Not the poor man, the very
No, no, no,
busy
okay.
covering all the things man. It wasn't under view.
All right. I don't know why I can't get this to go.
What if we unshare?
That's what I tried to do. Let's see. One second.
Danny, are you trying to do a screen share?
Yeah, I'm trying to go back. It won't let me. Yeah, I'm gonna get out and come back in.
Sometimes if that puck is not green that's plugged into the
Green.
surface, it needs to be unplugged and plugged back in.
It is green.
Yep, hold
Okay,
on.
she's gone.
Okay.
You're good. I'll let them in. Oh, there.
Okay, there we go. All right. Now we can get it going. That was weird. All right. So for Lincoln Hill, let's have the applicant and their engineer come up. So at the last meeting, we did have a discussion about the special permit for the density bonuses, and the applicant did have a chance to go back, look at their numbers, look at the density bonuses, and took into consideration the board's feelings on those density bonuses. And the applicant has proposed this newest layout. I'll let Janet and Ian take over on the explanation of this.
Do I need to reintroduce myself? So I'm Janet Field, the applicant, or one of the applicants, and I'm here tonight to share this updated plan for an open space residential development at 0 High Street. Previously, the most recent submission was for 53 townhouse-style homes. I know we've talked about this a little bit before, but the townhouse-style development came into being after months of design and engineering efforts based on our time of research and investigation throughout many conversations and meetings, and we had met with all the department heads and the sort of steering committee, and so we went down this path of townhouses thinking that was kind of what was wanted. And I don't have the precise date, but at some time, I think late last year, we learned that that times 100% meant zero. It meant nothing. So we had thought, according to the bylaw, that when you figured out what your yield plan was, that you multiplied that number by 100%. And to me, multiplying something by 100%, and to my engineer, and we all thought that meant double the number. And so we were told that wouldn't work. So we looked at the project and said, okay, well, perhaps instead of our interpretation being thought of as wrong, we would instead go down this density bonus route. So we discussed it with Danny, and we thought that was a good way to go. So then almost 6 months later, we're here in June, and we're looking at it, and we understand maybe now it became apparent at the last meeting that there was a shift in sentiment and that the board was not interested in granting density bonuses. So we reverted back to this 34 combination of duplex and single family homes plan nestled on this same development lot.
May I?
Yeah.
Certainly.
There's something I want to clarify.
Sure.
The issue here isn't about changes of sentiment at all. What issue here is step by step, there are things that have to be met. Now, I'm sorry that there were misunderstandings on your end. But when you come before us to say conceptually looking at such and such, we're limited in what we can respond to. Okay, that's a possibility that could exist. That's a fair response. It's a possibility it could exist, but it can't be a promise. Okay, yes, you can go with that. It's always conditional on, yes, bring it before us and let's see how it rolls out during the process. And it may have such and such risks and may have such and such opportunities. Now, so that when you came up with a number that depended on the density bonuses, you're exposed to the risk that when we actually came to discuss the bonuses, that some of us would feel that they weren't appropriate for this particular project.
Fair enough.
So no promises were ever broken at any point.
I don't think I don't think there were promises made.
All
I just wanted, I was trying to explain how we got to this point today, like just it's like sequential,
Mhm.
and I'm not trying to point blame and say, you know, I kind of feel as if we gave up on a dream to make this dense housing. So I'm just explaining to you where I'm at when it comes to that. And I understand that, you know, that it didn't meet your criteria for, you know, applying the density bonuses to this. Fair enough. It didn't meet it. So that brings us to where we are today. We did, you know, leave the meeting and we looked at the math and we appreciated the fact that the Affordable Housing Trust recommended the 3-to-1, and you know what I mean. So there's both positive and negatives, right? But it just you cannot make the math work. So it's at the end of the day, it's a matter of math, and unfortunately, there'll be future opportunities, perhaps maybe to do more less expensive housing instead of the word affordable. Small, yeah. So anyway, as far as today's project goes, we did, after some discussion and recommendation, decide to hire an attorney who specializes in zoning. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here tonight. We did, officially sign up with him, I don't know, a week or two ago. And he will come and work with us. He has been working to make sure that we are proposing a project that's within the Ayer bylaws and zoning regulations, and he's also actively working with the Volunteers of America to formalize an agreement regarding the relocation of the Neshoba Park's overflow parking that is currently on High Street, in order to create a formal agreement where Lincoln developers will help them to relocate their project in exchange for them deeding us the remainder of that lot and giving us an extra 1.71 acres. So our thought is that will alleviate the concerns related to locating the stormwater infrastructure within the open space, because we'll have plenty of additional, and much excess of the open space needed. Probably by.
Show me.
Yeah, so
Where would it be, the open space on this?
so this
Parcel A.
this giant chunk right here.
Oh, that would be, okay.
Yeah, this is it. So this minus this area.
Yeah, minus about 9,000 square feet, Ian?
Yeah, 8,000 square feet.
8,000 square feet for a parking lot, and that's actually that's the
It's
one.
been revised.
Yeah, it's been revised already
Okay.
to shift it away from the abutters and more. So it's shifted to the left, looking at this drawing.
Okay.
But that's not really before the board today, but that's just to give you some background and explain to you where we're at today. So basically, we don't have a lot of specific requests for today's meeting. We just kind of wanted to update you on where we are at and what our plan was. And once again, get any feedback that you might have, hear your sentiments. There's no formal requests before you today because we have to go back to the drawing board to formalize a 34 lot plan.
Right.
34.
A 34 unit, sorry.
Right, it's one lot.
I knew you.
34.
Careful.
You have to be careful,
Right,
right.
I'm sorry. Unit.
You don't want to trigger subdivision, yeah.
No,
Okay.
no.
And of course, we'd have to see a drawing, you know, for that area, lot parcel A, what's gonna happen with that, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, obviously,
And
you
that
know
will be a separate, we're working on doing a separate site plan review application for that lot.
Yeah. So this will have its own submission that'll come before the board
But,
The parking lot.
for the parking lot.
okay, but if this is dependent on that, is there, that's the issue, right? Do we have to approve that first then? If this is dependent on that?
Well,
Site plan-
Subject.
Simultaneous?
Most likely
Okay.
it would come in
Okay,
simultaneously.
all right.
You know, I know they're currently in works with the VOA.
Yeah.
So, and they were getting ready to submit it a couple weeks ago, but
Right, but then the lawyers got involved and they want to, you know, so we were working directly with the VOA and they've been so accommodating and they're good people. But you know, and the lawyers are good people too, but when lawyers get involved, everything kind of just jams up a little bit. Yeah. So they're in the process of working on the agreement. And I mean, I guess that's it. You know, this is where we're at in our journey, and
I think one thing's important is without any density bonus. I mean, that's what there could be density bonus on extra area or something like that, and might add a unit here or there. I think we should also realize that this additional parcel now is not included in the yield plan. So this is just additional area, and it could be included in the yield plan and could increase the number of units, but I don't think we're going there. I think
that's not my goal, or that's
Yeah.
not our goal. I want to. I'm going to be honest with you. The sellers of the land want us to resolve this and to, you know, complete the purchase of the land. So we don't have. I mean, you know, you're the board and you're doing your jobs, and I respect that and understand that you're doing your jobs. Your job is to make sure that development is within your bylaws. And but at the same time, you know, we're not looking to go back to the drawing board 100% and add units. We just want to kind of build what's by right, you know, build what's there and get the sellers, you know, of that land. I think you are aware that we own the other parcel of land, but
Yeah, another comment is there'll be 3 affordable houses here.
yes.
Right.
Yeah, so they would still trigger inclusionary housing. They would be required to, you know,
Right.
10%, which is, since 34 units, it's 3 units that are affordable. And
One more unit would generate, if they put one more unit, it would go to 3.5. That would be a fourth unit. Oh, sorry.
so the applicant would, based on, once they go back to the drawing board, in the sense of fully designing these plans, they would no longer need the special permit for the density bonuses and the special permit for the multifamily. So those would be off the table, and they would eventually, at some point, make a formal withdrawal without prejudice of those applications.
yeah. So in the meantime, Ian is working on finishing the 34 lot changes.
Yeah, I mean,
34
yeah,
unit.
I haven't done any further work than what you see here, but what I would do is then change the design to match that and update everything else. But there's one other question, and that is, since we submitted a revised site plan, we have not got a review back from DPW on the last submittal.
You know how we're doing comments back and forth, so the last set of
Yeah,
comments.
we didn't respond to those
So-
because we were coming to last meetings, and then that all the way the meeting went, and then you guys going back to the drawing board, coming back here. So we haven't really done a.
I think it would be helpful if we did get a response, at least
Based on the old plan.
based on the old plan, just to see whether we can stay with the direction we're going with the old plan. It'll be exactly the same.
Yeah.
Only just the units have changed. That's
Yeah.
it.
So and so where I was going to get to after that was we do need to do a review. Also, the stormwater came back. That's on the website, but this is going to change the numbers. It's obviously going to go down because there's less impervious, less rooftop,
Less driveways.
all that. So that's going to, the numbers will eventually, will most likely go down. So they're going to have to update their stormwater report. That'll have to get reviewed again. Traffic will also go down, and I believe the applicant did get a letter from their engineer. It would reduce traffic count by 49 trips
Okay, yeah.
a day. That'll have to be resubmitted and that'll have to be submitted and get reviewed by Green as well. And what I can do is I'll talk with Matt, and then we will give you a response letter back to you guys so that you have it.
That would be helpful. And there are a few issues, especially on the drainage, that I would like to speak to Matt about. So, I mean.
Sure, we can set up a time. He's so.
Yeah, so if
Yeah.
I can set up a time, if you reach out to me, I can set up a time with DPW, myself, and the applicant.
That would be helpful.
Okay.
Maybe we can then just discuss where we are on the last submittal.
Okay.
I got one item, I'll try to speak a little louder. So part of this original package was an A&R plan of land.
Yep.
That obviously will completely change when you get into the VOA information and also the well, it changes even on to this plan. The original one had a straight line across it and it broke out the two sides.
But all of the changes add that one parcel to it.
I guess he misunderstands me.
I get what you're saying. That'll get done at the end of the project. That's
well, it was
typically
part of the
it was
original,
part of the, but that typically gets done at the end of the project because
They should withdraw it is what I'm getting at. No?
they'll just revise it.
Okay. It's a
So-
stamp plan, I think.
It's a stamped plan, but it's not recorded, so it's not
Okay.
legally
All right.
binding. What would happen is once they get to the point, and it does get to needing to, it's a plan of
I get
land,
it,
so
I
it's
get
one
it,
of those
yeah.
ones that doesn't need approval from the board because it's an 81X. So it's just something that they choose to record whenever they want.
Thank you.
Do my other, yes, Nathan?
Just some general comments. I'll try to be brief. The board gets a variety. We get basically two applicants before us. We have applicants who want to stay within the lines and be very conservative, very safe application. And we get creative applicants, and some are too creative, and we don't find an agreement. Some, but many, especially in the OSRD, we find that we can increase the yield of the land. So I think, personally, I like to see the second applicant because I think they have a vision for what can be done in our town. The second is that the chair mentioned about a year or so ago that the state has a need for housing. I think it was 200,000 units. So where we can get more, it is a benefit. I think there's a need, and then I think there's demand. We know that there's 10,000 employees that are just over the line in Devon's that we've had applicant before us previously, with them in mind. So there's a demand. I think there's one of the things that we've been doing of late in OSRDs is mixed dwelling units, especially two families, but the opportunity now with the changes in our bylaws to do multis is, I think, a real opportunity because one of the strengths, one of the great assets of the town of Ayer, in my opinion, is about, depending on where you draw the numbers, close to 60% small A affordable housing. Many people I know moved to this town because housing is affordable. And so, you know, that would still be, um, you know, my desire to see a spread of affordable housing. I understand that the inclusionary housing does come at a cost, right? One house for three houses. Uh, there's so it's not that density bonus is not as attractive as say solar because of the downside of the deed restricted home as far as its costs go. That's a trade to make. But I think that you know even mixing some of this up, some duplexes, some multis, trying to contribute to the state's need, and to create a little community that has different levels, different types of income, family styles, sizes, is I think that's an asset. And one last thing, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Here, I think we balance about three things. We balance the land and the value of the land, all the water concerns, flooding concerns, keeping the trees and the habitat, all that. And we have this three-legged stool of land, housing, and the economics of the project, right? We don't really know too much about the economics, but so I understand that there's these three things, right? And we talk a lot about the land piece. I think there's an important aspect about dwelling units and maintaining, if not creating, housing in our town. And then, to the extent we can, the making it financially viable, or which I think was part of the intent behind the OSRD bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Any of my other colleagues have comments? I'd like to open it up for public comment. Could you check the Zoom, Julie or Danny, see if there's anyone in me? Yes, Lori, would you like to sit up?
Thank you. I just wanted a clarification on something. Since this is no longer an OSRD, does that?
It is still an OSR.
Okay. Has anything changed so that this is now considered a cul-de-sac and has to meet the 650-foot limit? Could you explain why?
So this is a condominium. It's not going to be a subdivision. It's not.
This is a condominium? What do you mean?
So, how do I explain condominium law?
Private streets.
You mean it's privately owned?
No, so condominium law in Massachusetts is different than most other condominium law across the United States. Condominiums are buildings, not property. So basically the way it works is there's one lot, there's multiple buildings, and each are considered a condominium unit. And that's what they're going with the route here, as opposed to creating lots, which would be more of an HOA subdivision type style. This is a condominium, so it's gonna remain private. It's gonna be maintained by a condominium association, so it does not meet the standards of a subdivision road. It's not going to be accepted by the road, by the town, or maintained by the town.
So essentially it's a way of getting around the regulations with the 650-foot limit.
So,
Not a
no,
fair representation, Lori.
Wait, one person,
It's not a
please.
town street.
it's not a town street.
It's not a town street. It was never
Right,
intended to be
so when
a
it's not a town
These are
st-
private streets, therefore,
Okay, so when you build a private street,
you don't
then
have
you
to.
get around the bylaws.
It's not getting around the bylaw.
apply, though.
We specifically wrote the bylaws for the regulations for roads that are accepted by the town,
That we're responsible
that
for.
we're responsible for.
At a previous meeting, I was told that the 650-foot limitation was because we wanted to control the the amount of housing that came in. It was to help regulate the number of housing. That was definitely at a before your time.
Oh, well, that's, I mean, I can't speak to what before my time said.
But that was the purpose of the limitation of the 650 feet, but you're saying it doesn't apply here.
I haven't heard that. and
I'd never heard that
7
either.
years here, So I know that's not.
I've been around longer than you have, though,
No,
so.
at some
Yeah,
point
it
we're dealing
was.
with the current times
It-
and what we're currently doing. as
Yes, when we passed the law, anyhow.
But just as an explanation, condominium law is more, it's not something that was done back in the day. It's more recent that's come around. So you can go through any town in Massachusetts and you'll find a condominium just like this.
So this is a preliminary proposal that you have here. I'm guessing it needs to look at things like where does the snow go, and the sidewalks and the roads and all that will be drawn in. Okay. I understand that you need to develop this property. You want to develop the property.
Lori, address to me.
Gotta go to the
Oh,
chair.
yes, I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm concerned about the VOA parking area that's being added up there. And in one of the previous drawings that had been submitted, one of these. No, it was in the previous drawing. The previous submission shows that the groundwater is being pulled in part from where the COA owns that property. One of the other maps from.
Oh, you mean the
shows
watershed
that.
map?
The watershed map, correct.
That's not saying
So-
that the water can pull from there. It's where it naturally is coming from.
So if you go up there and look at when we had, for example, the hard rain we had last week, you can see how the water flows through that gully. My point is that I have concerns about adding more impervious layers where the parking area is, but also when I stand on the edge of the VOA's property and look out where you're going to put that last leg of housing going up, I can visualize how much fill has to be brought in. I just ask if I could ask the proponent to consider the cost of just those last houses to bring in all the fill to build all the houses you need to. Is that cost effective, or could it just be the loop and you end at the end of the loop? So essentially you leave off the last houses going up. I can point to it on the screen if you're not following me, but you have to bring in so much fill to that area.
It's up to you. You can, or you don't have. I'm really.
Could one of the planning board members have asked this question if they wanted to?
We're
So
gonna
it
look
seems
at
like
all
I
of
should
that
be able to
stuff.
ask this
We're
question.
gonna look at all that.
I'm sorry?
We're gonna look at all of that. Does she, I thought this was
Yes, she's hearing
you.
through this?
Yes, because she's got the headphones on.
With the TV?
Yeah, that's what picks up on the TV.
It's both.
I really struggled to hear the voices.
Yeah, he didn't know that the mic is how you're listening. So that's why I'm pushing it closer to him.
Lori, do you have any more questions for us?
Are they allowed to answer my question?
It's actually a balanced site, so we're not bringing in any fill. They're taking from the high spots and flipping to the low spots. So it's predicted to be a balanced site.
Okay. And you've had them look at the geology and they know what they're getting into? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to make public comment? Yes, please step up. Thank you. Wait, look, whoa. Sorry. You sure?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go.
All right, that's all right. It's always Lori's,
Sorry.
your name and address, please.
Pat Lynch,
Hi,
33
Pat.
Park Street. And I realize this is probably going to be a very.
Pat, we need you to come
Oh,
closer to the
sorry.
mic.
Yeah,
Yep.
come closer to us.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you need the address again?
No.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I've been coming to these meetings and I am still confused. So originally there was going to be 55 units, and some of those were low income, and now it's going down to 34. Is there still low income housing?
10% requirement.
10%. Okay. All right. Good. That's all I need. Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks. And you're watching the Zoom to see if there's anyone, okay. Name and address.
Laurie Sable, 1 Winthrop Avenue. I'm a really loud talker, so I don't think anybody will have trouble hearing me. I am an abutter to the paper road, Webster Avenue, where the new parking is going to be. And I heard you a few minutes ago say that you've talked to the VOA about this. Obviously, you have to because it's their property. But I'm curious why, as I said at the last meeting, that parking is going to have a big impact on 4 properties. And you haven't approached any of us to hear our opinions. I can obviously give you my opinion here, but there's 3 other properties that are also abutting that parking area that are going to be impacted by this change in parking for the employees at the VOA. And I think there would be, we would all feel a lot happier if we were somehow involved, not in the decision making, obviously, but in putting things by us, letting us know what the plans are, rather than us having to ask you, for example, what the plans are. I think there'd be a lot more goodwill on the part of the abutters.
And just so that you know, there will be a formal submission for that specific one. It's not technically part of this submission, so that's probably why they haven't really discussed anything about this. I can't speak for them, but when the application comes in to me, at that point, all the abutters will be notified and so that everyone knows about the project.
But both of these plans have to be agreed on, right? The development and the parking area. One cannot happen without the other. So it seems like.
I mean, I can't speak for them.
Not necessarily. I mean, this is a great solution, but it's not 100% dependent on the nursing home. The memory care.
Assisted living, I think, is
I
a.
would be more than happy to sit down with you at any time and talk to you about any of this. So do you want me to, I'll give you my number before we leave tonight and we could chat? Just rather than taking the board's time, it's up to you, whatever.
Okay, well, there's 4 of us.
Okay,
And I'm not speaking for anyone else except myself. I just think it's a good idea to involve the people that are affected. And related, is there any issue with providing that parking on a paper road, Webster Avenue, Webster Street, whatever it's called?
We can't speak to that right now. It's not part of this application. Once it comes in and we review it, then we'll know answers about that. But as of right now, that has not been reviewed.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Yep.
First off, I would like to thank the applicants.
Oh, name and address.
Sorry, Julianne Govang, 34 Groton Harvard Road.
I want to make sure you just pull that a little closer to you.
I'd like to thank the applicants for being receptive to reducing the size of the plan, because sometimes bigger, better, faster, more huge isn't always the best compromise for everyone, even though it might be best for the town in theory. When you're dealing with a whole bunch of other things going on, like abutters, like area that you're working on, there's a lot more things that are compromised the bigger a project gets. So I am very appreciative that they're at least contemplating reducing the size of the project. That being said, my only question is, with the new plan, the infiltration center of it, is that going to shift at all, or will that still be going through 38? If you don't know.
Going to?
Yeah, you have the retention, and then you have the infiltration. That's still going to be underneath 38?
38 Groton Harvard?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Where the cul
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my question.
That will not change, other than probably that pond will probably increase in size.
Oh, well, that
Believe
sucks.
it or
Okay.
not, but probably what's going to happen.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Just a question.
No, you have to come to the table, Beth.
Clarify what the right now. I'm sorry I was late. I just don't.
Comments are limited to the material on the table. We're discussing Zero High Street in this plan, in this proposal here, that you see on the screen.
Stormwater not covered now,
No,
just.
we
the
haven't got there
change.
yet.
Okay, just the change.
Nobody's on Zoom, by the way? I just want to check to make sure we're not skipping something.
Apologies that I wasn't here for the beginning of the discussion on Zero High, Beth Stidmeyer, Nashua Street. I was just wondering if you had presented the change in the square footage of the limit of work, the change in impervious area, and the amount of blasting that would be required. I see a cut and fill analysis. It was included in the materials, but I wasn't sure if that's for the reduction to the 34 units. And just trying to understand the differences in terms of overall impact for 34 versus the previous submission. Through
The
the chair.
cut and fill will essentially be the same, because the grading will remain the same. That road will stay the same. However, going through the drainage review, I think we're gonna find that the amount of runoff is gonna increase quite a lot. Only because, depends where you get your numbers from. And that's one of the things I want to speak to Matt about. There was no comment on the numbers I used first time round from the town, but I think that is something that needs to be looked into as the intensity of the rainstorm. And I think,
Are you talking about which formula we use, like either
No.
Atlas? Are you talking about that?
no, I'm talking about what you would call a 100-year storm. How much rainstorm there is in a 100-year storm. And my impression is that I mean, I've been through this through a lot of other towns, and different towns get their numbers from different places. And
Yeah, but that's the No Atlas 14 versus
yes,
Cornell.
no Atlas, right.
Yeah, I don't know if Matt's on. No, yeah. So I'll have to set up a meeting with Matt. But I believe.
Yeah, I mean, if Matt,
Yeah,
Matt,
I can't speak. I can't speak for. I can't. Yeah, I can't speak to it right now.
Yeah.
I know it's in the bylaw. We do reference what is it? I believe it's
no,
not
I
in the
looked,
bylaw.
I looked, I couldn't find
Chapter
it.
245. It's in the regulations. So it's in the regulations. I'll meet with Matt and
Yeah.
we'll have to set up a time to discuss the
Yeah.
DPW anyways. If you guys did want to discuss.
Right.
So.
And obviously, we know that this project, the stormwater is, the biggest concern, so we just need to make sure we're nailing that.
Yes, and that still does need to get peer reviewed.
Right.
Right.
Well, no, it's been peer reviewed, but.
It's gonna have to be updated.
Right.
That's right.
Okay, yes, exactly.
I may just a clarifying question then. So the impervious area increases?
No, the impervious area is going to be a little bit less with this plan. Less roof area, less driveway.
So
The same amount of road.
your comment about the stormwater increasing then is related to the calculations, not related to the runoff
Related to the
from the
calculations, correct, where the numbers come from.
All right, thank you. So,
Yeah.
so again, cut and fill that is in
Essentially
the
the same.
packet is essentially the same.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned that there is a balance. So there's
Yes.
like 11,000 cubic yards of blasting material.
So I have it right here. So
And that will all be used on site? It won't be shipped off?
No.
Okay.
Gonna crush it on site with a machine, obviously. Gonna have a machine on site to crush it, obviously.
Right. And so there's not been any change to open space versus developed area with this plan, and that is all still up for discussion by the planning board, correct?
other
But they're
than
with the VOA.
yeah. So they're they're in discussion currently with the VOA about acquiring. Um, let me just pull up this plan. This land to be added to the open space. So it's about 1.9 acres.
And so that's different from the proposed parking.
That's the same. That's that land. So they would build. Correct me if I'm wrong. It would be building that parking lot for the VOA, and then the rest of that land would end up going to the applicant.
But again, it would involve the same difficulties that we're discussing related to any loss of vegetation in the open space, because there's going to be grading that needs to happen on that parcel too. So there might be loss of vegetation that would happen outside of the parking area.
Parking right there. And it's actually on a really, if you can see by the topo lines, a very flat area.
So 9,000 square feet, right?
But this is the one that you just said is separate and not in this proposal.
Right.
And can we clarify that, because I'm just confused by when you have decades of parking used by the VOA on a paper street.
It's not a paper street.
It's not a paper street. Okay, what is that
Which
street?
one is it? Which one are you talking about?
She's talking about the extension of
High Street. Yeah, High Street's not a paper street.
Okay, but the VOA's been using it, even though it's town land?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they do or they don't have a formal agreement?
Not that I know of. I mean, it's been there since the 40s,
Right.
or maybe even before then. I
So,
don't know. Someone may be able to correct me on that.
so
It used to
if
be a
there's
hospital in the 40s,
common
wasn't it?
use allowance
Not the VOA.
for it,
DOA's recent.
then if the project takes that away, then I would think that this needs to be part of the project, because you can't resolve the parking if this project goes forward and that doesn't go forward.
The traffic study actually didn't even highlight that, as neither traffic study highlighted that. It said signage could address that. So we're trying to be preemptive in helping them relocate. It's not as necessarily anybody required us to do it, but it's just, I think, a safer way to deal with their parking. We're not forcing them to do it.
Okay, so their parking doesn't have to shift, is what you're saying. Their parking can remain as it is.
It could, but ideally it won't, because it's not safe. They're going to be, they're right, well, I mean, that's not for me to say. I don't know if it's safe.
Because I think I think it's really a public safety conversation too, right? And regarding the question about the cul-de-sac, not cul-de-sac, I understand, that this is single parcel, not subject to subdivisions, and not going to be a public road, but the public access is still certainly paramount. I think you want people to be able to have public services. So, I think that the review from our public safety is
they have reviewed this. I believe fire provided comments
There's a narrative
initially.
in the- yeah.
I just didn't know how much has changed since any of those comments.
The roadway's the same.
All right, thank you.
Anyone on Zoom? Any further comment?
Anyone on Zoom want to speak? Pauline.
I have just a very brief question. I believe, I'm sorry, my dog is after something in the backyard. About 15 years ago, the same family of developers wanted to build 8 homes on what was called Emily's Way, and then withdrew that. We recently approved this OSRD zoning bylaw. I forget how many years ago, I think it was 2 or 3.
No, 18.
And I remember specifically speaking about and against it at town meeting, but it was approved. My question is simple. If the OSRD bylaw had not been approved, would this development even be allowed to go forward?
How is that relevant?
How's it relevant? We
It's
already
not.
passed.
I mean, it's.
Yeah, we're not going to address that.
That's not even.
Well,
It's not a.
Mr. Chair, that's fine. You don't address it. I will bring it to public
Well, so
process. But this is a development submitted under the OSRD bylaw. Yes? Or
yes,
no?
yes, it is.
Okay. Thank you.
And just to clarify on that, if you were to phrase that question, then every other OSRD would also not be allowed. Like, it's not a valid question.
Not relevant. Any further comment?
Lori Nearing. I'm wondering if our bylaws allow the
Lori,
park.
you have to speak up. Sorry.
Okay, I can't tell how loud I'm talking.
That's why I'm telling you.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. I'm wondering if our bylaws allow that parking lot to go directly next to somebody else's property. That's where that building is. Their shed is right there. They've done a lot of nice landscaping. Is that allowed?
When the applicant submits, we will review that. As of right now, I'm not reviewing this plan because it's not been formally submitted to me.
It's a bylaw question. It can,
That I have not looked into because it's not before me.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Motion for continuance?
Well, the question is, when do you want to continue? So,
I think what's most important.
our next meeting is the 24th. We will have one member who is not going to be present. He will not. So Nathan will not be present at the 24th or the 8th, correct? So timing for you is going to be quite on determining which meeting you would want to attend.
If we say the 24th today, could I tell you later we're going to make it the 8th instead?
Yes. Yeah.
That's what I would like to do, because it will depend on Ian's, how much time and energy he has to put into the pre.
Yeah, I think also the most important thing is to resolve this parking. Because how we are.
But we can talk about that between us.
Yeah,
Let's
okay.
talk about that.
Yeah.
All right.
So the 24th?
24th?
4th for today, we'll say that,
All right.
and I'll let you know.
I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing for 0 High Street, 38 Groton Harvard Road, Lincoln Hills, for special permit and site plan review and inclusionary housing and stormwater permit to the next Air Planning Board meeting on June 24th.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Ken?
Yes.
Kathleen? Nathan?
Aye.
Julie?
Yes.
Chair votes aye. It's been continued. Thank you very much. Moving into project status updates.
All right. So the air substation, that's 0 Park, 0 Bishop Road up the National Grid area project. So they're currently working on the site. It's going to be, they said, about a 2-year project. So it's going to be done over time. They have been, they're doing SWIP inspections. They're providing them to us. They're moving along slowly. They did do some tree cutting, and I believe other than the internal stuff, that they've been doing some. They've only really been replacing some stuff. They haven't really done any of the site grading, any of the expansion. But as of right now, the plan is it's going to be a 2-year window for this project.
Big project.
It's a big project. Yeah. This is one part of a larger project that they're doing all throughout Massachusetts. So it's kind of it's going to take some time. 42 Park Street. So as of right now, they are working on. They're currently installing landscaping out there. They've done some reworking of the parking lot. There are some concerns that Heather has regarding the new work that they've done and stormwater runoff. So we're hoping to get a meeting with them on site this week or next week just to review it. But they are addressing the concerns that I brought to the board a couple meetings ago. about the larger impervious area than what was approved. They've worked out an agreement through conservation on what the new layout for that is going to be. And so when we get out there and meet to discuss it, I'll be able to give the board a better update after that. Stratton Hill. So Stratton Hill is moving along.
So I've been walking Pine Meadow and I can hear it.
Yeah, they're blasting. It
Or
started Monday.
What do you call it when you use the
Hammering.
truck? Hammering.
They're hammering out there. They did do all of the blasting notices. They sent those out.
Excuse me, sorry.
They did their pre-blast surveys. They have their certifications and everything. Went through the permits for the fire department. They submitted everything to myself, to the fire department, and to the building department. So currently, right now, everyone's up to date on that information. The only thing, so right now they're just doing blasting. They said in the letter, it said 4 to 6 weeks of blasting. It's not every day, but it's gonna last about 4 to 6 weeks of blasting.
Ooh, that's it?
Yeah. That's a lot.
Thanks, that's my summer.
No, I mean, there's. No, I'm surprised. They're gonna do it in one stroke. Okay, great.
Well, so they're not clear cutting the site.
Good.
They're doing it in
Selective,
phases.
yeah.
And that's why. I mean, obviously, we don't want them to clear cut that site. That's too much
Agreed.
open land. So they're doing it in phases of clearing, blasting, clearing, and blasting, so that it's not a.
That trailer's still there?
They moved it. They're using that as they're using it for storage.
Up the hill.
Yeah.
And it's usable?
Apparently.
Storage.
They're using it for storage. So it's not.
They had to chase the raccoons out?
Sign above my driveway, my kids are hysterical about it. So the sign above my driveway going to the site says trucks entering highway. It's our dead end road.
Yeah.
My kids are like, what highway? What highway are we entering?
Should we think about a quarterly walkthrough by the planning board or something like that for something this big? Once in a while,
So there's supposed to be monthly reports submitted from Dillison Roy. So I'm hoping to be getting one soon because it's been about, but take a month.
I don't know. Should we?
If there is an opportunity for us to take a walk, though, if it's allowable, I would like to see progress to see where they are and get an understanding.
I can reach out to them. I don't know about currently because of blasting.
Exactly.
So I can try to work something
Nice
out.
to have a look because remember there were some debris piles we were concerned about. There was some discussion. So we just want to take a.
And that is something that I did raise to them about, because I know Attorney Collins had reached out to me a couple weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, about this, about when that would occur. I told them that needed to occur prior to moving anything. So I think I'm waiting for. I'm gonna remind Dillison Roy that they have to provide us with that monthly report so that the board can at least get an idea of where they are. But as of right now, kind of where they are is blasting and that. So the piles, I don't know exactly. I can't give you an answer on that.
I saw some of the truckloads that were coming out, the tires and the thing, and so I will say I witnessed it leaving the site.
Oh.
I can't speak for all of it, but I did see that, and I spoke to the man doing it that day.
That's wonderful.
There was a tiny issue that was brought up way back by the conservation management permit regarding a turtle nesting area.
Yes. Yes. So Attorney Collins said that they were working with MISA on updating the location. Based on their discussion, they felt that MISA said that they wouldn't have an issue moving it. So what he's going to do is when they do get through that, they're going to provide us an updated plan of where the new location is going to be. But based on the discussion as of right now, it's going to be in that northeast area that we had previously discussed during the public hearing.
Great. 91 Groton Harvard Road.
91 Groton Harvard Road. So I don't know if anyone has kind of taken so and that was because of me. So I had to issue 2 cease and desists on them because of multiple issues that they. So if you're driving up Groton Harbor Road 291, you'll see there's a slope that goes down into the conservation land. They basically graded it through rocks all the way down to the bottom, to the toe of the slope, to rip-wrap it all, to try to hold it in place. At that point, I put a cease and desist because it wasn't the first infraction that we had kind of tried to work with them on. This was just kind of the last straw where I was like, all right, we're done with this. We're not having these issues anymore. That was, we stopped all work. They had to fix that, address the riprap, bring it all the way back up to their property, try to revegetate or bring that to a little bit more of a natural state back to within the conservation land. They mulched it. We gave them the okay that they could go back to starting work again. There was some some fixes that they had to do. They had to bring back that outlet pipe about 5 feet. They had to fix. There was concrete, rebar, wood, trash within the fill. I made them rip everything out, put it back in clean. So there was a lot of issues that we had over a 2 to 3 week period, and that's why there were a lot of cease and desists. We haven't had any since that issue. The Jersey barriers have been put up. The grading has kind of been completed in the front portion of the site. Some of the wattles have been changed to the higher ground now that the grading has been done. So we're moving in the right direction.
Okay, good.
Can I just clarify? They did the grading and that rock, it never actually got to the conservation land. It went right to the property line, which is one of the things that they did. So when they cleaned it up, they had to do it from the top of the slope, because if they went the other side, they would have been in the conservation land. Just to clarify that for you,
Okay,
we made sure of that.
Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, so I believe the next item,
They stopped the framing, they stopped everything.
No, they started back up. They have started back up. We released the cease and desist about maybe 3 weeks ago, give or take about 3 weeks ago.
Can I ask one quick question on the follow-up? The project that the gentleman came in that is the former fireman, did he ever start?
Oh, Zero Scully?
Zero Scully.
So we haven't heard anything from them. They haven't done anything out there. There's nothing that's. I've reached out to GPR. GPR said that they've been silent. They haven't heard anything either.
Okay.
So it's kind of in one of those situations where the applicant hasn't done anything.
so I believe the next item on our agenda is reorganization.
Yes.
And so I think what we have is a proposed slate, right?
We there has so we have had discussions. So I did speak with Nathan about seeing if he would be willing to step up and be the vice chair, and to explain why my thinking is this way. Eventually, members are going to be getting off the board. Eventually, as we saw, Jeff has resigned. So I want to make sure that all the other members are in positions to be able to step up into these leadership roles of the board, the vice chair and the chair. So I want to make sure that everyone is getting that training in the sense of how to run a meeting in case of a chair. If Jonathan is not here, the vice chair would then run the meeting, and then the clerk would serve as the vice chair, kind of just like that. And I just want to make sure that as we go along, we have people stepping into those roles and looking to the future as well. So, in my opinion, I'd say for initially my proposal would be for the vice chair would be Nathan, but I'm not a voting member. It's just that's my initial thoughts.
We need a formal nomination?
Yeah, and so there'll need to be a formal nomination for the clerk because Jeff is no longer here.
So who will be clerk?
Since
And take all the boards that we have to sign up to to be on.
No,
for
that
all
doesn't,
the-
that's, so, that's not what the,
That's coming
so the
next.
clerk,
I've been here long
well, we
enough.
have to, we do have to deal with that, but I will deal with the appointments
Sorry,
at
Danny.
a
You're
next,
just in the hot
at the next meeting. That's,
I told you it's coming next.
yes.
We might
At the
need to
next
adjust.
meeting, we will discuss appointments to the various boards and committees that everyone is on.
Before we discuss our rules, I'm not trying to preemptively say that, but I have asked many times in that discussion that it's been brought to the select board and the town manager, my concerns about what is asked of this planning board.
Noted.
For that, when we discuss it, can we clarify like the board and when it meets?
Yes,
Like,
yes,
that's
so I
like
have a chart.
question is like,
Yep,
oh,
I have a chart all of a breakdown of everything that every member is on and what needs to be reappointed and what will need to be appointed. So I can give you that breakdown as well.
So we have three roles?
Yep, there's chair, vice chair, and clerk. So amongst
Why
the
don't you start with the vice chair? Why not start with the chair?
in the chair, so I can also lead. I haven't gotten there yet. So the chair, my discussion was to initially keep Jonathan on for chair for one more year, and then at that point there'd be the moving of the chairs, and I feel Jonathan would then step down to be a normal active member, and then Nathan could eventually step up to the vice chair. Whoever is clerk would then step up to, from vice chair to chair. Whoever's clerk go to vice chair, and then someone new would go to the clerk.
I'm going back to being a member, right?
Do you
Is that
want
okay?
to be? Would you
prefer
want to step
not
up to be chair?
No, I can't be chair.
Okay.
Oh, I see the reasoning. My question is, coming up is the master plan.
Yes.
So
Wait a minute, was somebody gonna nominate me for chair?
I don't
You
know.
did- Okay,
Wouldn't
fine.
hold back if you want it. You
It
served
was a
well.
question. It was more of a question there.
Right?
we have the master plan coming up.
Yes.
So I wouldn't need to be a chair to be actively involved in the master plan, right?
No.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. So do we need to nominate people?
Yeah. So I can't make the nominations.
Oh,
The
okay.
board has to.
All right, where do we want to start?
I'll nominate Jonathan Kranz for chair of the planning board for the next 12 months.
Second.
My discussion question would be, Jonathan, do you feel comfortable continuing serving
Yes.
as chair? It's a lot of work.
I feel comfortable
well,
serving.
so
Thank you.
thank you.
I do feel comfortable, yes, so I accept the if voted on. And so I would not abstain from the vote and they would vote, right, for the nomination? Okay.
I mean, if you.
I
want
feel
to vote for
embarrassed.
yourself, you can. You
should
can vote for. You can,
yourself.
but
You've
you
done
vote.
a great
Yeah, you
job,
can
and
vote
you're
for
willing
yourself.
to serve.
You can.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none? Ken?
Aye.
Kathleen? Nathan?
Aye.
Yes.
Julie? Chair votes aye. Thank you, and I appreciate it. I'm honored. Thank you very much. So I'd like to nominate Nathan King as our vice chair.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none? Ken?
Aye.
Kathleen? Nathan?
Thank you.
Yes.
And chair votes aye. We need a nomination for clerk. Now, this is where it gets tricky.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sensing you don't want to do it.
I'm sensing that I often say we make people who have already volunteered feel guilty.
I'm not trying to make you
about
feel guilty.
taking
This is
on
simple.
even more when we
Julie,
sit here and
It's
stare at
just
each
yes
other.
and no. I'm not.
No,
You don't have to make an
it's important to
excuse.
acknowledge we are all here
Yep.
to help, and we are all here, and we continue to ask more, and
Yep.
and I am grateful for everyone's parts, and by stepping back, it means someone steps forward. But no, I am not
Not
asking for clerk.
Can't nominate Kathleen
That's
yet.
what I mean. We have to awkwardly stare at each other. It's very rude.
Can we?
Town manager's fault.
I'm taking a demotion. I'm already get kicked off.
I have ideas, and we could discuss.
You can go without a clerk.
If we want to wait on the clerk,
Let's wait on the clerk.
I don't know if
I have reason, right? Yeah.
that doesn't. So just to clarify, the clerk normally would be the one who takes the meeting minutes, but since Heather does do the meeting minutes, the clerk is more of a. Yeah. Yeah.
Do I inherit that by stepping into Jeff's role?
Even if you would actually, the clerk actually ends up becoming chair if the chair and vice chair are absent.
Right.
Exactly.
Dubious honors.
Clerk is
Wow.
third and-
Okay,
Vice
yeah, let's
chair and-
punt on that. Well,
You can't make a motion
I could
without
put,
people
yeah,
jumping down your throat.
I could like close my eyes and leap into it, but let's wait until.
Can we do that, Wade?
Let's wait until.
Because I need.
Next meeting.
Yeah, we can wait until the next meeting until the joint
There
meeting
was a
has occurred
question, I
and
I know.
the formal appointment has occurred.
We have someone from the public has a question or a comment?
It's just a question, it's a point of order question. With Jeff stepping down, Nate stepping up, there's an empty chair. When would be the next election be to fill that chair?
Well, so what happens, this is what happens next. So we have an associate, that's Kathleen. And what happens, what happens is the joint meeting between the planning board and the select board, and that'll be next Tuesday, a week from today. And which will propose that Kathleen be a member. Now, does she fill it until the next election, or the rest of the term?
So she fills his term.
She fills his term.
She finishes out his
Finishes her term.
which would be out to be.
Coincides with my term.
Correct.
As an associate, but I'm basically finishing the last.
Yes.
So would there be like a special election or something that would substitute?
No. So what happens next is we would look for an associate, and then in between now and the next election, what we would do is propose a candidate to the select board, and the select board can approve, appoint until the next election. Then it becomes an elected position again.
And we currently, I have been in discussions about trying to have two associate members, so that there's a 5-member active board, and then there's a two associates. And that helps alleviate a lot of the other concerns as to what committees is everyone on, because I agree with Julie. The planning board is always the one that gets, how do I put this slightly? Gets given ends up with the burden of having to be on every board, including the planning board. They have to do all of the committees. There's always a requirement that one board member be on it, or two. So
Which is crazy.
it is a big burden, and I don't want to keep saying it's a burden, but it's a lot to put on someone's plate. So I'm looking to hopefully add another person that will alleviate some of that pressure on other board members, and that way it evens it
If your
out.
intention is to have people graduate, sort of, and, keep the rotation going, I mean, all the same people, but, if you have more, you have more room
Mhm.
for diversity and variety and multiple opinions.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I was just curious.
Great.
Make
Yes,
a
Nathan.
comment too to the public, which is I have seen a lot of interest lately in planning board applications, and there's a lot of knowledgeable people that we've all witnessed of late, and so I would encourage to because this is, let me give you a little insight. The planning board is like Groundhog Day. This occurs again and again and again, and so take the experience of being a butter or present and apply that to the repeat. So I would encourage anybody who's been engaged of late to consider planning board associate member or committees.
Thank you, Nathan.
And
Thank you.
if anyone is interested, feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you. And then finally, we have a discussion about proceeding hybrid or in-person alone.
Yeah. Can I just preface this on how
Yes, you
this
may
discussion
preface this.
came about?
Yes, you may.
So initially last year, we made the move to go fully hybrid, and it was kind of a town-wide thing we were looking to do, and that was to increase participation among residents for all of the boards. It's also kind of one of those, it makes it adds some ease for those people who cannot get here in person to attend it on Zoom. There is, it also helps for consultants when consultants
That's true.
can't attend the meeting in person. If they're in Boston, you know, all these other locations, because we do get consultants from all over.
It allows us to participate remotely.
Correct. And it does allow, so.
Because I remember I had to do that last year. I had to participate remotely.
So, and there's an occasion where I believe on July 8th, I will have to be remote. So I think, in my opinion, keeping it hybrid would be the best course of action. But the reason this is coming up is because at our open meeting law training that occurred, discussion of hybrid came up, and that it's not a requirement. It is up to it's up to the board's choice. It's more of a board
I
vote.
thought it was the chairman.
I mean, if I would believe it's more of a board vote, because we at the last year we also as a board voted to go as hybrid. I wouldn't feel comfortable leaving that in the. Nothing against Jonathan.
No, not at
but
all. I wouldn't feel
leaving that
comfortable either. I
decision
would
to
wanna have
just
less-
Jonathan.
Yes, I would rather we all discuss it.
Correct.
I have an opinion.
Yes.
My opinion has changed from the last meeting. I have been, I think like all of us, I have been concerned with some of the difficulties balancing the Zoom with the meeting. However, I also do come to have a greater appreciation to the fact that it does open the meeting to more people to access it. And I'm loath to withdraw that access. That's my position, and I'll stop there.
And
If anyone else would like to weigh in.
And I know that there was some previous concerns about maintaining the screen and who's going in and out. So going forward, I will be manning this, and I can multitask, so I'm not worried. Obviously, there's going to be the occasion where we got stuck on a weird screen and couldn't do it. That's more technically, I don't foresee that happening in the future all the time. So going forward, I will be manning that station. I'll handle that. So I don't want the board to have to think that they need to make that vote based on, how difficult it can be.
I think I love that it is the accessibility piece for anybody who needs to be here. And I think the part where you're mentioning consultants and people can come, that's also a cost savings to the applicant to not have to pay people's commuting expenses and time to get here. So I'm still a huge supporter of it. My only question, just that you can keep asking, was the last I had checked, the biggest difficulty sometimes is just that ding when people enter the room. It's like someone coming in and slamming a door. They were trying to get
Zoom notification, yeah.
so they were working on trying to get rid of the ding.
I
So
can
if
talk
you could
with
just
Max.
keep
Yeah.
mentioning that ding would be, just because people are cutting in and out, and that's totally fine, but that's the part I find us all kind of twitch a little.
Yeah, I can
But
talk to
I'm
Max.
in favor of keeping it hybrid.
See, I don't want that ding either. What I want is a gong. A big gong. Every time someone goes, gong, and then we could.
I can add that for you.
So other people weigh in, other opinions.
I agree.
You agree with the hybrid?
I agree.
Did you want to add anything?
Nope.
Nathan and Ken?
I mean, I'll say I am a reluctant supporter. If I see the value for the public, I understand there's a value for the applicant, but my desire would be that that there be a strong preference to be in person. There's the medium. We go into the medium is the message, but it puts something in between the conversation, and that presents a challenge.
And I would expect that the applicant would be here. I mean, I think it would be pretty bizarre for the applicant to say, I'm going to phone it in when something is at stake as important as an application,
Yeah. And just tonight, so as an example with Liz, she actually had knee surgery, so she's still recovering, so she could not be here in person. Right. So it lets her
still
be
meet
able to.
My intent to say, hey, applicant, make every effort.
Absolutely.
We understand there's exceptions.
And I think any sane applicant would understand the
Yes,
value.
most applicants prefer to be in person. Obviously, Zoom, there is that detachment. You're not really in the room. You're trying to talk, and like it's not the easiest to sync. It doesn't always sync up when someone's talking versus that. So it does add some difficulty.
So the only other piece of that is the same with public input. Zoom would have the same criteria that that it needs to. There are boundaries to the discussion relevant to what's being said. I think that it probably just needs to be more clearly stated when we have remote participants. That's my take.
So we're gonna put you on the hot spot, Ken.
Yeah, so
You don't have to comment, but if you wanted to.
I'm willing to stick with whatever the board wants, but one important question that I had. At the training that night, the lawyer pointed out to us that during a hybrid meeting, I believe, if the meeting were interrupted by technical difficulties on our side, and we lost the participants, that the meeting had to be continued.
No.
Now, wait a minute, that's what he said.
Yes, let me.
Okay, that's what he said. Now, you may have a different answer to that, but am I correct, that's what he said?
That is what he said, but
That's what I wanted to
let me
say.
explain what. So, town council, which is who gave the presentation, because we have the language in this opening script where it says, if the meeting gets for some technical difficulties, we will not be stopping it. That covers us. If we did not have that language, then yes, I agree. You would have to stop the meeting until the Zoom was up. Which I actually, when I worked in Salisbury, we did not have that language. So there were multiple times where the Zoom went down because the Wi-Fi went down, and we had to stop the meeting until the meeting was back up.
You guys understand what the concept is there, that the
Yes, we do.
person on the screen is entitled to the same access. Okay, so we're sticking with the language what we have, which means if we lose the people on the screen, the meeting continues and they lose their ability to participate in the meeting. That seems to be the answer that.
Yes.
Okay.
So do we need a motion to vote on this process, or is it informal? So I'd like to make a motion that, do I have to say in perpetuity or just for the year?
Hold on. Pauline has a comment.
Yes, Pauline?
I was waiting for you to vote. I wanted to at least let you know I wanted to say something. But I appreciate the fact that you're willing to continue with hybrid personally, because I have a serious hearing loss, and the only way I can hear anything in public is this way. And Ken, to address your question or concern, if I lose your Wi-Fi access, at least I have the video to watch later. And I think the disclaimer at the beginning of the meeting makes everything clear. So I appreciate that you're going forward with hybrid. It will really make my life a lot easier. Not that that's your concern, it's my concern. So I just wanted to thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'm gonna, do I say for a year, or is it, or just?
Till next year.
Till next year. So I propose that we continue with the hybrid model for our meetings for the
June 30th, 2026.
June 30th, 2026.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Ken? Yes. Kathleen? Nathan?
Aye.
Julie?
Yes.
Chair votes aye. Oh, we have to sign this darn thing. Of course. Thank you for remembering. All right. And then we can adjourn, but we have to sign.
I need the board to sign the. Oh, perfect. Thank you. This is the zoning map that was approved at town meeting. I need the board members just to sign this so that I can scan it and then put it up on the website.
Do you have the good?
I don't have a, no, we just need a normal pen. A nice pen, anyone have one?
Ken always
Or
has.
Ken, you know what, Ken's got a.
Engineer through and through.
That works, okay? That works.
Should be decent.
And I'll put the re-endorsement date. I'll put the re-endorsement date, because that is
Yeah, it's a crummy.
June 10th.
It's gonna go online.
want a Sharpie, it's still going strong.
Ken's got that same
Don't
Sharpie.
tell him it's gonna be used up by the end here.
Okay, so today is June 10th.
Oh, after we sign, I'm just waiting for him to sign, then I'll make a motion to adjourn. That's all.
Yeah, motion for.
No, I want to finish the signing so we can.
Danny, are you gonna let us know about the
We're good?
select board date via email?
So I will let you guys know, it is going to be next Tuesday. So it'll be Kathleen, Jonathan, and Ken next Tuesday for the select board meeting. You're considered as quorum, but you will not be voting.
And that's in here at 6?
Oh,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
6, not 6:15. Okay.
I gotta check this out. I might not be available.
Okay. Okay, then I'll need to know tomorrow.
You're not kidding.
You're allowed, Jonathan, you're on.
If you can't, that's fine. We can find an alternate date. I was thinking the 23rd, which is the Monday before the
Yeah.
24th meeting.
Okay.
I know Kathleen, that makes it hard for Kathleen.
I know,
Maybe-
good. I'm sorry, it just occurred to me, I will double check immediately when I get home.
Yeah,
I'm
and if
sorry.
not, we can figure out a date. If we have to have a special meeting, then
We'll do it.
have to have
All right.
a special meeting.
Okay.
Or maybe we have it before the June 24th meeting with the select board here before our meeting.
And worst case, I can zoom in to that? No.
On the 24th? Like, on which one?
The 20. You said the 23rd. which
Yes,
is the date
yes.
that I'm-
So it could be the 23rd. If you can't make that, then that's fine. We could try to do it before our planning board meeting on the 24th.
Okay, okay.
Maybe we can have an early, like at 6 o'clock joint meeting,
That's
make
a
the
good
vote,
idea.
and then go to 6:15. But I have to.
I'll check.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts here.
All right,
Motion-
and then so will you email after?
Yes.
Just keep
Yep.
me-
I will let everyone know.
Motion to adjourn?
Hey.
Everyone, great job tonight. Thank you very
Great.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome, congratulations to Nathan, our new vice
Congrats.
chair.
Pat.
Thanks.